Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Belgium. Welcome to Rosselair. Welcome to the Nest, where Norwich City have kick-started their Belgian leg of the pre-season preparations, obviously for the Championship, and it's brought us here and a game against Club Brugge, and a very competitive, high-level game it was indeed for Norwich City. This evening, they've been beaten by 3-0. To be honest, that was the least relevant thing at all to come from this evening. And of course, I think it's a game which we're going to have to talk about context and try and put it into the parameters that it should be put in, really, because there's a lot around it that maybe make this result a little bit. I don't know, better is the right word, but it definitely shines a different light on it than maybe it looks at first glance. In the same way, I guess, as we caveated that game on Saturday where they beat Northampton by 3-0, and that's just pre-season, isn't it? I'm stood in the technical area of the visitors section of the stadium. I'm gonna have to be pretty quick because what's the time now? We've got a bus to catch in about 20 minutes or so. So this won't be an uber long verdict. If not, we're going to struggle to get back to Brussels for the evening. But and that's where we're based on this trip. But yeah, so this was a real jump up in opposition. You could see that, you could sense it. Bruges, and this is the first bit of context that I'll apply to this. They're in a very different place in terms of their preparations. This was their final pre-season game, and they've got the Belgian Super Cup, I think it's called, on Saturday, which is essentially their equivalent of the Community Shield that we have in England, before they then start their league campaign next Friday. So this was Norwich City not just playing a team who are going to be playing Champions League football and who are the Belgian champions, but also a team that are in a very different place and are much further along in their respective pre-season campaign. I think you saw that. They went very, very strong. Norwich were obviously without key players. There were a few of them in the stands, but Christian Fashtak and Shane Duffy were the two who were involved on Saturday against Northampton, who weren't here tonight. Both of those, Johannes Hofterup confirmed, were injury related after the game. And then obviously you had the Scottish contingent, which have joined up with the team, but they officially return to training properly tomorrow. So possibly see some of those on Saturday. Jose Cordoba and Josh Sargent also still away, but they should report back for duty next Monday. So there's a possibility that we'll see them in the game against Magdeburg next Friday at Carrow Road. So that's the context you need to put around this. Norwich City started the game with Long in goal. They had a back four of Stacey, Warner, oh blimey, I'm testing myself now. Sorensen, sorry, Warner, Montoya, a midfield three of Sarah, Kellen Fisher, got to go there after what was a pretty impressive performance on Saturday, and Gabriel Sarah, and who was the other one? Borja Sainz, and then Kamara and Rowe, either side of Adam Idah, which was brilliant to see. His first start for Norwich City since January. He, of course, has been on loan at Celtic in between. You might have heard a little bit about that, and there's been plenty of rumbling subsequently, but the plan was always for him to get 30 minutes here tonight. They wanted to drop him into an environment which was competitive, which was fierce, which was sharp, and that was the sharpest part of the game for obvious reasons, because Bruges were at their strongest, at their fittest, and both teams were. And I thought it was a pretty good performance from Adam Idah. A lot of what he did was back to goal, kind of link up combination play, but I liked what I saw. They remained quite central. He dropped in at points to allow Rowe and Kamara to push on beyond him, and just linked plays that most of the time set Borja Sainz away. And I thought, just with those touches, just with those minutes, didn't really get any sort of sniff of opportunities in front of goal, but there was enough tangible there, I think, to really draw encouragement. We've spoken to Johannes Hofterup after the game, and once again, he's reaffirmed how important that he sees Adam Idah being in his championship plans this season. So if Celtic do want Adam Idah, and they definitely do, then they're going to have to put the money where their mouth is and begin to get that moving along, because one thing's for sure, Johannes Hofterup isn't speaking like a manager that is preparing to lose Adam Idah. Of course, the situation is always, if a club meets a valuation for a player, then things can move rapidly, but at the moment that hasn't been the case. So it was good to see him. I thought he was one of few positives for Norwich City tonight, and there were some positives. There were some bits that weren't so great. Norwich were a little bit passive. They went a little bit man-orientated at points, and that didn't have to yield the best results. But particularly in that first half, they had opportunities to score their turnovers. There was some brilliant driving runs from Borja Sainz. There was a moment actually where he drove through the midfield. He had Idah to his right, Rowe to his left, and instead just sort of dragged a shot wide when opportunities to play either side would have been better. And Johannes Hofterup looked a little bit frustrated during that. And of course, look, no team likes losing football matches, but again, you have to respect the quality and the situation of where Bruges are at the moment. I actually think this is a game that tore up his staff, but also the players. And I've just spoken to Jakob Sørensen as well, and he sort of agreed, really. It's a type of game that they will get much more out of than what they did against Northampton, because it is basically put their new style of play under a lot more stress. The defenders were tested a lot more. I thought Guilherme Montoya had a difficult evening at points. Brad Hills was good when he came on. There was some composure in elements, but there was a lot less control as a general rule of thumb. So then it's about how much you've coached and you've learned. And again, Torp revealed after the game that they'd only really started working on defensive structures and shapes yesterday. So that gives you an indication of how far along they are in terms of information building. And that's why it's so important. And it's a delicate balance at the moment because, yes, pre-season's about fitness and it's about minutes and it's about balancing load to different people and different players at different times. But by the same token, it's also about, in sort of implementing a style of play, and that means putting information into players, and you have to expose them to minutes and to repetitions and to game situations like this to really get that information into them. So yeah, it's a very delicate balance and a very difficult tightrope that they're walking at the moment. The first goal comes from a mistake from Borja Sainz on the edge of the box. He gets picked off by Christoph Schollis, remember him, and he's played in, and that was the first goal. The second goal, they cleared one, it came back. They were sort of, they hadn't set themselves really. The ball came in. It's an excellent sort of lashed finish into the back of the net, really powerful from close range from Nielsen. And as I said, that should have added a goal, really, particularly in that first half. Second half, Norwich made a host of changes. There were a lot more young players who came on. I thought Finley Welsh had a very tidy game. I thought Brad Hills was probably the most composed of Norwich City's central defensive options, of that young cohort we've seen get minutes and opportunities today. Elliot Miles went off with a slight dead leg. So yeah, this was a game that, again, I think needs to be contextualised, put in the appropriate context that it should be put in. And as a test, I think Norwich are much happier with it than perhaps Northampton on Saturday, where yes, they had a lot of control, yes, they looked very impressive in possession, but in reality, did they learn anything new about maybe their shortcomings? Probably not. They will have learned a lot more about that tonight, and as we said as well, there are positives to be taken from what we've seen tonight as well in terms of certain elements of the game that they did. We spoke about Idah. There was some really good driving runs from Borja Sainz. I think him in that midfield position looks quite tidy. He looks like, when we think about Borja Sainz, he was a player last year who wanted to come and play inside. He wanted to open up the game and just operate in those half spaces where he could curl shots in or where he could create stuff on the edge of the penalty area. So when you put him in that position and he's driving at players and he's running at defences, it does feel like a natural solution there, particularly if Norwich want to have a wider option on that side. And we do. We spoke about that a little bit on Saturday and the structure of how they want to build up. And there was a little bit less of that today, but I think Torp will be under no illusions of the elements that they need to work under. I think they struggled at points with how high Bruges pressed, with obviously the quality that they have in possession, but there were points as well where they navigated that quite well, and they did have passages of play where they were pretty composed, all in all. And then the third goal comes. It was a really nice third goal, actually. Bruges weren't really in it at the second half, and then put three passes together, and the substitutes curled a shot in. So I think it was a deflected effort that's gone past George Long and into the back of the net, and that was it, really. As I said, there was a bit of huff and puffing. The game sort of died a death and descended into proper pre-season mode thereafter. Norwich, obviously, both teams changed their 11s in its entirety. Really good to see Gabriel Forsyth again as well, who's come over, and he played a brilliant ball to Tony Springett, and there was some good ball carrying from him. I felt probably lacking that in product, which we've spoken about before. But on the other side, as I said, Finley Welsh was neat and tidy. Manning is looking neat and tidy in midfield. Deji, again, we got another look at him. Big, powerful unit, some good stuff as well. Adebayo at right back was interesting, and more about getting him minutes, I think, than a reflection of where he was going to play. But that was positive as well. So a lot of stuff here, mixed stuff to take away, I think, from this. But yeah, it's I think a 90 minutes that, even though the scoreline looks as it looks, I think Norwich and Johannes Hofterup will be very pleased with. Right, I am going to have to dash because we are going to have to catch a bus very quickly. So this was a shorter, sharper video verdict. Paddy's doing the old Fergie time sign at me. So yes, I'll sign off. There'll be plenty more on Pink and Channels. We've got Johannes Hofterup. We've got Jack Stacey. There's a brilliant offer. You can go over to our socials and our website to subscribe to Pink and Plus. And I've got to tell you about Chips Away as well, Norwich, who have made all of this possible for helping us to get out here, and Austria as well later in the month. Right, that's it. Got a dash. See you soon. Check out the Pinkin. We'll see you on Saturday for Standard Liège.